Alzheimer's. You've heard the name, right? It's a disease that touches so many of us, not just the people diagnosed, but their families, their friends. So in this explainer, we're going to really break it down, what it is, how it unfolds, and where we stand in the fight against it today.
Okay, to really get a sense of just how big this is, let's start with a number, a huge number actually. As of 2020, around 50 million people around the globe were living with this disease. This isn't some rare condition. It's a massive global health challenge, and it's only growing as more of us live longer.
You know, it almost always starts in these really small, subtle ways. I mean, who hasn't forgotten where they put their keys, right? But this is different. It's about consistently struggling to remember things that just happened. And that's not just a normal part of getting older. It's often the very first sign that something deep inside the brain is starting to change.
And that right there, that's the big question, isn't it? To really get what Alzheimer's is, we have to go beyond the symptoms and look at the biology. What is actually happening at the cellular level that causes this awful decline?
So let's dive right in. Inside the brain. What scientists have found in people with Alzheimer's are two main suspects. A couple of proteins that basically go rogue, start misbehaving, and just wreak havoc on that incredibly complex network that makes us who we are.
So, meet our two culprits, amyloid plaques and neurofibrillary tangles. First up, you've got these amyloid plaques. Think of them like sticky, toxic gunk. They're made of a protein called amyloid beta, and they build up in the spaces between your brain cells, basically gumming up the works and disrupting communication. At the same time, inside the cells, you have these neurofibrillary tangles. A protein called tau, which is supposed to be a support structure, just collapses. It's like the whole internal railway system of the neuron just falls apart. So it's really a two-front war on the brain's fundamental structure.
Now, one thing to get straight is that Alzheimer's isn't like flipping a switch. It doesn't happen all at once. It's a progressive disease, and it usually unfolds over three main stages, with each stage bringing bigger and bigger changes to a person's abilities.
So in that early stage, the signs can be, well, they can be pretty subtle. The person might have a tough time with short-term memory or learning something new. You might notice them struggling to find the right word in a conversation, but they can usually still get their basic ideas across and live pretty independently, even if more complex things like handling their finances start to become a real challenge.
Then comes the middle stage, and this is often the longest and, frankly, the toughest part of the journey. This is where a person really starts to lose their independence. The memory problems become much more severe, sometimes to the point where they might not recognize their own spouse or children. Language gets harder, and really challenging behavioral changes can start to appear. Things like wandering, getting easily agitated, or even aggressive. This is where it becomes incredibly difficult for caregivers.
And then you have the late stage. At this point, the person is completely dependent on others for literally everything. Language might be gone completely, or maybe just reduced to a few words. Their physical health declines rapidly, and they often become bedridden. It's also important to understand that people don't usually die from Alzheimer's itself. They die from complications, like pneumonia or another infection, because their body has just become too weak to fight it off.
So all of this just leads to the one big question: why? Why does this happen? Well, the honest answer is that we still don't know the exact cause. It's a huge, unfolding mystery. But researchers have managed to identify a really complex mix of genetic and environmental risk factors.
And genetics play a huge role here. I mean, look at this. For late-onset Alzheimer's, which is the most common kind by far, it's estimated to be about 70% heritable. Now, that does not mean it's a genetic guarantee. It just means your genes play a major part in your overall risk profile. And if we dig a little deeper into those risk factors, the biggest genetic red flag is a specific version of a gene called APOE, the epsilon-4 variant. But, and this is a big but, genes are not the whole story. Things like a history of head injuries, clinical depression, and cardiovascular problems like high blood pressure and smoking all seem to increase your risk. And of course, the single biggest risk factor of all is just getting older. Okay, so since we don't have a cure yet, and that's the hard truth, the conversation really shifts to management. And this covers everything, from lifestyle changes that might help, to medical treatments that try to slow things down, and just improve a person's quality of life. Now, there are no magic bullets here, but a ton of research points to things we can all do to support our brain health. Regular exercise, keeping your mind active with things like reading or puzzles, eating a healthy diet, getting enough sleep. All of these things are linked to a lower risk of cognitive decline. The idea is that together they help build something called cognitive reserve. Think of it like a mental savings account.
a resilience buffer that helps your brain withstand damage for longer.
When it comes to the medical treatments that are out there right now, it is so important to be realistic about what they can do. The medicines we have today are not cures. They don't stop the disease or reverse it. What they can do is help manage the symptoms, at least for a while, and help maintain a person's quality of life. So basically, there are two main types of drugs that are used. The first kind basically works to boost a key chemical messenger in the brain that helps with memory. The second type is used a bit later on, and it helps protect brain cells from a kind of toxic overactivity. For some people, these can offer some real but temporary benefits. The ripple effects of this disease go way beyond just the person who has it. The global cost, get ready for this, is estimated at a mind-boggling $1 trillion per year. That number tries to capture everything, from direct medical care to the massive economic weight that societies everywhere are carrying.
And that trillion-dollar figure, it can't even begin to capture the real human cost, because caring for someone with Alzheimer's is one of the most demanding jobs on the planet, and it usually falls to a family member. The strain is just immense, socially, psychologically, physically, financially, and we see that caregivers themselves have much higher rates of their own health problems because of it.
So, where does that leave us? Where are we headed? Well, the fight against Alzheimer's is without a doubt one of the greatest challenges in all of medicine, and the path forward is being paved right now in labs all over the world.
And make no mistake, this is a massive effort. We're talking billions of dollars and euros being poured into research every single year. The entire global scientific community is mobilized, searching for better treatments, for ways to prevent this, and of course, for a cure.
And very recently, we've actually seen a potential breakthrough. Brand new treatments, a type of antibody therapy that can go in and actually remove that sticky amyloid beta protein from the brain. Scientifically, this is a huge step forward, but it's not that simple. Their real-world role is still up in the air because of some serious side effects, a very high price tag, and real debate about how much they actually help patients feel and function better.
And this all leads us to one final, really powerful question for the future. After decades of trying to treat the disease once it's already taken hold, a lot of the focus is shifting. What if the best way to fight Alzheimer's isn't to treat it, but to stop it from ever starting? Could prevention really become the ultimate cure?